here as well is demystify the business plan, and I think people and clients we've seen can spend a lot of time and a lot of money on a business plan and getting it up and running, and months and months and months of inaction and talk go on. So I think a business plan needs to be a really basic working document. We have ours on an A3 sheet, so it's quite easy to see, and we refer into it all the time. So what we're going to be going through today, we've got the first point here, setting your goals. So we're going to talk about setting goals. We're going to talk about understanding your business environment with a SWOT. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard what a SWOT analysis is. If you don't know, we'll be going through it, but I think it's a great tool to work through when you're doing your business plan. And then our secret herbs and spices, which aren't all that secret and aren't too herb and spicy-ish, but that's our 5 pillars. So the 5 pillars here, this is what we use internally. We find the 5 pillars covers most things for your business, but you might find 4 pillars works, or 4 main areas, or 6 or 7. So this is just a suggestion, but our 5 pillars are staff, financial management and accountability, service provided and products sold, operations and sales and marketing. So Rob and I will be going through each one of those pillars. And down the bottom there, a bit of key to success. We suggest whatever your business plan looks like, that you have it written down, you review it at least monthly, you adjust it as things change and as you need to and more information becomes available, and you be accountable to it. And that's probably the big one. Rob and I, in our business, we have an external person that comes in once a month and helps us on our plan. So he's a really good guy, but he doesn't do anything special, so to speak, other than just hold us accountable. So we'll have a meeting, we'll go through all our different metrics. We've got our little plans, etc. And the second key to success is it should be a fun process. I think coming up with a plan for your business is actually quite exciting. You're all in business for a reason, and I think business can be quite a rewarding process. Being in business and developing your business plan is sort of key to that. Okay, so setting your goals. I guess setting your goals is all about what are you trying to achieve, and this is on both the personal level and a business level. If you're in business with someone else, I think you both need to come together on your personal goals and then your business goals. So you must have some sort of alignment. You need to have a common purpose in what you're trying to achieve, shared goals, and ultimately shared values in your business. And if you can't get to that, then that's why a lot of business owners who are together fail, and a lot of businesses fail, because the business owners aren't in alignment with what they want to do, and they don't have the same goals. So I think that's a really key point. And if you're in business with your life's partner, so your husband or wife, then the same thing. You both need to be really clear on what you're trying to get out of the business and align your lifestyle goals with your business goals. So a business goal can really be anything. It might want to be that you want to work 4 days with the same profit. It might be that you want to sell the business for a certain number in 4 years' time. It might be that you want to achieve a certain profit. It might be that you want to be seen as a leader in the industry. There's so many different things that your business goals can encapsulate. It could also be things you haven't been able to achieve before. Gee, we really want to put in this big facility into the business. We really want this new piece of software to be working like such and such. So you can have multiple types of goals. Some of the goals we've got on the screen here, they can be lifestyle goals, profit goals, turnover, succession. Like I said, I want to sell in 3 or 4 years' time. It could be you want to enter a new market. We're operating in Melbourne. We really want a new branch in Sydney, because that branch in Sydney is going to increase our scale and our buying power, and it's going to allow us to ultimately sell the business for the number we want. It might be improving cash flow, but whatever it is, I think your goal needs to be SMART. So if you haven't heard of a SMART goal before, jump on Google and put that in. But the SMART part of a goal stands for, it needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be actionable, it needs to be realistic, and it needs to be timely. So perhaps a goal that wouldn't fit the SMART definition would be, we want to be a really good business. That's probably not specific enough. You can't measure how you're going. What's the actions to take to be a really good business? And then you've got realistic and timely, but a more specific goal might be, we want to sell this business for $3 million in 4 years. That's a little bit more under the SMART goals. And the last couple of lines here, if you don't have goals, how do you know what you're trying to achieve? You know, if you're in business right now and okay, business might be going good, and if you don't have goals and a bit of a plan, how do you know what you are working towards? How do you know those sort of five pillars that we had before? When you're looking at operations, or you're looking at your finances, or you're working with your staff, how do you know what it is that you're trying to achieve in each of those segments to help you achieve your ultimate goal? And the last point, some people and businesses like to have a vision for your business, you know, it can give you focus and purpose. So do you have a vision? And if not, what could it be? And this is something that can be worked out with your business and also with your staff. Okay, so getting started, I spoke about the SWOT analysis, and I think that's sort of the first step. You really need to understand what a SWOT analysis looks like. We've done plenty of SWOT analysis with our business, and we usually start with a whiteboard and we put it into some certain quadrants that you'll see on the next page, and then we just work through that. And we've done, you know, probably over the time, Rob and I, we've done several plus SWOT analysis, and we've done them by ourselves. We've done them including staff. We've done them independently and come together. And I think it's something that as the environment keeps changing, so should your SWOT. So just on this page here, so what is a SWOT analysis? It's strengths, weaknesses, and then opportunities and threats. So strengths and weaknesses are internally focused. So if you can think of strengths of what do we do really well and what can we leverage, weaknesses, what don't we do well and we could improve. And then opportunities are the external opportunities. What's external to the business that we could improve, and what threats are likely that could impact our business. So as stated there at point number 4, you know, we usually set up a whiteboard with the following quadrants: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You can Google a SWOT analysis to get all to get the specific definitions of strengths and weaknesses, etc. And then away you go. You can do this exercise, like I said, with a team. So I'll just spend, I think we're at the next 3 or 4 slides here, just going through some of the parts. But strengths, you know, it's internally focused. It's something that's already existing. It can be natural or effectively man-made competitive advantages. So what is it you're doing really well? So you know, as a strength of your business, your location. You know, your location is fantastic for whatever reason. Is it facilities or equipment? Do you have exclusive contracts? Are there internal efficiencies that other businesses don't have? Is there key staff or intellectual property? You know, what is it internally that you do really well that makes your business successful? And this year, yeah, it can be a great exercise to work through with your existing staff and get some really good ideas. So next thing is weaknesses. And once again, this is internally focused. So strengths and weaknesses are internal, opportunities and threats are external. So weaknesses, what does your business not do well? What isn't natural for the business? What do your competitors do better internally that you don't? What do they have that you don't? It's almost the reverse. You know, are you in not a great location and they are in a great location? Do you have limited resources? Is innovation lacking? Do you have internal inefficiencies? You've got old systems, old processes, lack of technology. Your staff perhaps aren't great. You might have lack of buying power. Your suppliers are uncertain. There's a whole list that you can probably come up with pretty quickly under the weaknesses heading that you can work on to improve. So opportunities, external, are they externally focused? So what is outside your business and what can you take advantage of? So there might be new markets or an emerging need for your product. There might be a positive change in competition. So someone, your local competition might be moving location. They might have a new focus, a new owner. There could be some little tweak that you can take advantage of. There could be legislative change that's to your advantage. Is there a complementary product or service that you could leverage from your strengths and nail an opportunity? So that opportunity is really what's the low-hanging fruit around the business that we could take advantage of that we're not at the moment. And then threats is still externally focused, and it's basically what's the threat to your business. Probably the biggest one we're seeing at the moment and COVID is the obvious one, but no one, I mean, very few businesses planned for that level of threat and disruption. But in basic terms, what if a new competitor comes in that's bigger and better and cheaper? What if there's a negative change in legislation that impacts the business? What if there's a new product that wipes our old product out or our service out? And what we're seeing mostly of is technology and disruption. Think of Blockbuster Video 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. The Blockbuster Video stores operating, and now there's none because Netflix, etc., has come in. So the threat side of it is really what's a threat to our businesses outside of our control, and then how can we mitigate those threats? What things can we put in to help mitigate those threats? So a quick recap on where we are now. So you have a basic idea of what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. The business owners are in alignment of what they're trying to do. These goals may be broken down into SMART goals, but then they're also broken into 1 year or 3 years, etc. You've got some sort of understanding of your business internally, and the strengths and weaknesses, and then also the external opportunities and threats for the business from the SWOT analysis. Okay, so into the 5 pillars. So like I said at the start, these 5 pillars are what we find works quite well, but you might have 4 or 6 or 7 or 3. It's up to you on what suits. And I like to think of these 5 pillars as mini business plans on their own. So you think of staff, these are the projects and the little plans we've got on under the staff pillar that's supporting our goals. These pillars are in place to support the goals of the business, and my view is that each little pillar operates as its own little plan. And you might find in your business that you've got committees or people working on specific plans under those pillars. So I know in our business, for example, we could have 2 or 3 or 4 operational type projects going on, and we've got different people from the business working on those projects. This doesn't have to be at the feet of management or the owners. This is something, the 5 pillars is something that should include all staff. Okay, so we'll run through the 5 pillars. The first one I've got here is staff, staff being the first pillar. And you can see on the screen, clarity, expectation, and accountability. So going clockwise and starting at clarity, do staff understand their role? Can they point to a job description? If someone were to walk through your business and ask your staff what their role is, would they be able to tell them exactly what their role is? Do they have that level of clarity? That's sort of one of the first things that a staff member needs is clarity in their role. They need to know exactly what it is they do. Can they pick their job up and put it into a whole lot of bite-sized segments that could effectively go into the calendar, into their calendar? Is their job role specific enough they can do that? So that's sort of the first step is almost with each staff member pulling out the job description again and having a look at exactly what it is they do and what you want them to be doing and being really clear on that for them. Our next part of the pie we've got there is expectations. Do your staff know what's expected of them? So if they know what their role is and what they should be doing, do they then know what's expected of them? So what do they wear? At what time do they turn up? What's sort of the cultural norms that you're not talking about? When can they take lunch? How do they bring new business in? How do they request annual leave? What does a great outcome and expectation look like for them? So the expectation is really the meat around the clarity effectively. And then the third part there is accountability. So you need to have accountability. Our experience is you need to have accountability with your staff. So if you've got really clear role, and then you've really clearly articulated what your expectations of your team are, then you need to hold them to some sort of account on that. And my experience is that people actually want to be held to account on their role because they want to get better, that they want to progress, they want to get a pay rise, etc. So that's where the accountability side comes up. And for us, this matrix is really base camp. It's the fundamentals, along with your staff having the resources to do their role. they need these three pieces to the pie: clarity, expectation, and then accountability. Just continuing on staff, so some points with the current environment. Your communication and leadership is critical. So now more than ever, you need to be communicating to your staff. You need to be leading them, especially in this environment. You need to have your working environment safe, which I know that most of you would, but I think it's something you really need to address. If you can, you really need to consider also remote working and flexible arrangements. I know in our business, we've got 30 odd staff that have been working at home now for 10 to 12 weeks. And it looks like we've got another at least 6 weeks of that and possibly longer. So remote working and flexible arrangements, I think post-COVID is going to be a new norm. What does this look like for your business and for your staff? Your organisational structure, does this need a change? And this is perhaps something that might come to light when you work through job descriptions, etc., with your team. But does your organisational structure need to be made visible, and does it need a tweak? Who are people reporting into, etc. And then what are the likely skills gaps in your team, and do you as an owner need support? And that support could be along any number of things. But for example, it could be management support in looking after your staff. So we've listed here some likely projects that you could be working on under the staff heading. But you can see the first one there, IT systems if all staff are working from home, refining roles for each team member, going back to basics. Okay, let's get the job descriptions out. Let's get really clear on what we're trying to do with our team. Let's have their clarity and expectations really clear. Perhaps you are changing the organisational structure, to allow for greater efficiency and improve the teaching between the staff members. What does that look like? And probably a big one is that bottom point, having regular catch-ups with staff. What's your review process? Do you catch up monthly? Do you catch up quarterly? Do you have a formal review annually? What does it look like? Do the staff know that? And I think that's part of that staff information, or providing clarity in their role, where they're at, is that they know, well, I have a regular catch-up with Bob each month or each quarter, and this is the form we go through, and this is the discussion we have, and I know exactly where I'm at and where I'm sitting. Okay, some likely projects continue. This is something that we do internally. So we have monthly one-on-ones with our staff just to share a bit of what we do, and then we also have 6 monthly more formal reviews. But part of your pack, and I sort of said at the start that this business plan is something that you should be plugging into on a monthly basis, and that includes where all the pillars are at. So with the staff pillar, for example, the management team discussion should be, or your owner's team discussion should be, on what are the KPIs of the staff. Are they achieving them? How's each individual team member progressing? Was there anything that came out of their one-on-ones? What plans do we have in place if someone leaves? And a pathway timeline. If someone's been there for 6 months, where are they likely to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, etc. And then I've mentioned that staff review process. So our experience is that staff reviews are really hard to do, and really hard to do consistently. So does your staff review process need a reboot? And as I said, we do our monthly one-on-ones, etc. Okay, Rob, over to you.
Thanks, Mark. Morning, everyone, again. So the next pillar that we look at is financial management and accountability. The real important thing here is just to get eyes on these things. Whether it's a monthly dashboard, I would say that has to be a minimum. Whether it's weekly, fortnightly, things that you want to be, looking at, and this probably ties into your kind of SWOT analysis and what your goals are, and the other pillars is, is it your sales, this month, last month, over particular dates or quarters in the year. You may want to kind of break those down into particular segments or customers that you're getting your sales from. With your sales, you may look at, your collection process as well? Do you get, you know, is that starting to you know, fall out? You know, are people taking too long to pay? Do we need to look at, you know, other alternatives, you know, pay up front, these kind of things? Reviewing of key expenses, again, you know, month, year to date, against your budget. And then kind of really, I suppose, focusing on or drilling down into relevant KPIs that may be particular to your kind of industry. They may not be, you know, financial as such. It might be looking at productive hours for staff, or things like, you know, for marketing, whether it's, you know, website hits or number of views, you know, the other things there, occupancy, profit per customer, you know, your bank account creditors, you know, these kind of things. You just want to kind of, you know, I suppose, drill down on the particular items. And the key, I think, is to kind of tie them into, you know, what you've already kind of done with up, you know, your other pillars. You might, and your goals, you might be saying that, you know, we want to expand or grow, but then how does that fit into the financial budget? You know, what do we need to put in place to make this happen? And really, I suppose, just you know, review it, tweak it. You might start with one thing, and then, you know, a couple of months down the track, you might, you know, delve a little bit deeper into certain areas. So I think it's you know, use something like this as an evolving kind of beast as such, and continue on. And the real key is to just constantly refer into it. And other things, I suppose, from a financial perspective, and this is where you kind of tap into your external advisors as such, or your bookkeeping packages. You know, tap into your balance sheet, review it where it's currently sitting, maybe 30th of June prior year, or month to month. You know, look at the key items. You know, what have you got in the bank? You know, where are your debtors levels kind of sitting, you know, now to say the same time last year. You know, review of stock if that's applicable. And then I suppose your key kind of commitments with your liabilities. You know, I suppose at the moment, you know, real big things are things like the tax office, you know, rent, you know, creditors, conversations with, you know, those kind of, you know, key factors in most of our businesses when we're in this kind of COVID environment is more important than ever. And then from a profit and loss perspective, you know, just things like you know, if it's applicable for your business, your GP margins, you know, are we consistent? Are we consistent with maybe our industry, you know, competitors? You know, are we similar to what we've been doing for previous years? And that second point there, just that break even, you know, what is it costing us to kind of keep the doors open? What do we need to be doing, you know, on a monthly basis to just, you know, stay afloat or break even? You know, that's probably more important than ever. Do we have an understanding of what our fixed and variable costs are? You know, and again, it ties into you know, maybe what our goals are, you know, sales this year, last year, and just those kind of key expense, you know, areas. And all this kind of flows back into, you know, the critical thing is just your cash flow, and all this kind of ties in together. Are we getting it in quick enough from our debtors or our customers? Are we paying our suppliers too quickly? You know, are we reviewing that? And kind of, you know, forecasting it in three ways: your balance sheet, your profit and loss, and your cash flow. You know, but with the current situation, I suppose you know, the forward focus on cash flow is kind of more important than ever. Do we know what our upcoming obligations are, you know, before they happen, and are we putting measures in place to kind of monitor those? So some likely kind of projects, and this can be, you know, a fairly expansive kind of list. You know, do we need a change in invoice processing? You know, is our collection processing, you know, up to speed? Should we be sending statements monthly, quarterly? Should we get on the phone and talk to them? but the most important thing is just kind of just get some eyes on a dashboard. Now, it doesn't have to be 20 things on the dashboard. It really just needs to be that, what you define in your business as the key metrics that makes it tick. So again, it's kind of tying into what your goals are, where you want to be, where you see the business, are you all in alignment, with those things. And you're kind of picking it, but I'd be, saying, look, you might start with 5 or 10, and then you might change those 5 or 10 in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months time. You might, change to a particular area or put more focus on certain things. It might be your debtors process might need an overhaul, or your creditors, or how you're buying things. So there's a lot that can be worked through in that project space. Okay, so the next pillar that we've got is services and kind of products. Kind of listing them out. What do we do? How do we get paid? Kind of scenario. What do we get paid to do? Understand those. Understand what products that we're putting out there, or how we tick. And I suppose that probably ties into, where can we go? What else can we do? Mark will go through the SWOT matrix on the next page, but it's just really, I suppose, what are we doing now? Are we exposed in any area? And it probably just ties back into the financial management as well. Do we get 80% of our business from one particular area? Do we need to kind of diversify into other kind of products and services? Are we at risk? If one particular customer is, 60-70% of our overall revenue for the year, what happens if they kind of leave? So really, I suppose having a good grounding and understanding of where we currently are with our services and products, and where we can kind of potentially, kind of move into. But again, that ties into goals and your SWOT analysis that, Mark spoke about at the start. Some likely projects there would be, kind of bringing, new products in. How do we do it? Services, what's our supply chain kind of look like? Is there new suppliers if one goes down? And can we, is there ways to develop new services or complement, or can we grow existing services? Is there something more we can move into?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. This is the ANSOF matrix, which you can see, and it's really something that can spin out of when you do your SWOT analysis. I think you do your SWOT analysis, and you might have new services or products that come out of your SWOT analysis that's just, gee whiz, we can take advantage of this local opportunity, or I've had a change in competitor. We can now go into offering this service or this product, or we've got a new staff member on that's got these skills we haven't had before, whatever it might be. And then I think it's good to run it through this lens. So this is called the ANSOF matrix. Once again, if you pump this into Google, there's so much content on this, but it's a really good little tool. And so the ANSOF matrix has 4 quadrants effectively. The first quadrant is the market penetration strategy. So that's where you're simply selling existing products and services to existing markets. So it's just what you're doing now. You're trying to get better at it. The second quadrant effectively is where you're looking to sell new products and services, so product development strategy, new products or services to an existing market. So this is something that may come out through a SWOT analysis. Gee, we're already selling this service or providing this product to our clients. Is there something that's complementary, that's a new product or service, that we can sell that as well to those to our current clients or customers in an existing market? The third quadrant is what's called the market development strategy. So that's where you've got existing products and you're selling it into a new market. So I said before, you might be operating a business in Melbourne and you want to move to Sydney or something like that. That's a market development strategy, because you're taking your existing products and services and you're effectively picking it up and moving it into a new market. And then the last quadrant is the most difficult, with the most challenges, and that's simply where you're selling new products or services to a new market. So you've almost got no home ground here. You know, you can't rely on, we've been selling this product or service for a long time, or we've been serving this market for a long time. It's a completely new strategy, and that's often the most difficult. And an example might be of a diversification strategy would be the Woolworths Group going into I can't remember what the other name of the hardware chain was now, but the Bunnings competitor, whatever that was called. That's how well they went. But that's an example of a diversification strategy, is doing something that's completely different. Okay, Rob.
Thanks, Mark. Our next pillar is operations. And I suppose what we're looking at here is what things can we systematise, you know, within our business. What things can we do to kind of make it better, more efficient, run smoothly, as such. You know, there's going to be so many things within your business, but you know, probably the key is not to have too many kind of changes in one go. Pick out one particular area that's key, you know, to your overall kind of business function, and work on that. You know, kind of map it out. You know, see what the steps are. Identify where, you know, any kind of particular you know, issues are, and then work on developing a project on how, you know, on that particular area. You might have a kind of 10-step process to go from, you know, start to finish, but it might be, you know, step 4 and 5 that might be the key kind of particular areas that you need to kind of work on. You know, again, it's probably tying into your SWOT analysis and these kind of things. You might be looking at particular areas like, you know, just if we put this new piece of software in, is it going to make the process, you know, more efficient, 10%, 15%? If we put the new software in, does that mean we don't need, you know, additional staff or these kind of things? So there's a multitude of things, but the real kind of key is to probably step out, you know, what operations looks like, you know, in your business, and then work through, you know, the particular projects that you may need to do, identify the issues. But the key thing here is probably just that communication piece and the inclusion of the people that are along the line, that, you know, that make your business tick. It's very difficult when, you know, the directors or the managers or the bosses will kind of put a particular process in or a new piece of software but not communicate that with the team. That's where all ends of issues can start to happen in terms of falling down. So you might find that you're worse off, you know, not including them. So including all the pieces in the chain is a real key. Thanks, Mark. Yep. And I kind of touched on this, but just map it out. Again, you know, whiteboards are a magical thing, and I think you know, in our business, the whiteboard gets a fair workout. You know, when we're kind of, you know, brain dumping things or mapping things out, and what if we did this or changed this, or if we did this particular process in a different way, what would it look like? You know, it could be, you know, so many things. It could be the way we're ordering our stock, or it could be the way we're putting our timesheets into the system. It might be our billing, our debt collection. Yeah, there's a multitude of, I suppose, different things, but ultimately, I think any business owner wants to have the most efficient way to get from, you know, A to B, whether you're selling products, time, services, whatever it is. Driving efficiency, improvement, you know, skills, these kind of things will lead to ultimately, and tie back into what, you know, your ultimate goals, or where you are in alignment on goals, whether it's profit, growth, succession, these kind of things. It all kind of ties back in together.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob. Just something of interest in our in our business, I got a workflow map. So we've got an end-to-end map where from when a client comes in to effectively when a bill's being paid, there's every single step in the business is mapped out. So the idea is if someone new comes into the business and there's a template for a particular letter or a how do you do something in a particular step, it's all there. So I'd encourage you just to have a bit of a think about how a workflow map, an end-to-end map would look like in your business. And you may have your business broken up into a whole lot of different sort of maps, if you like. But it's just something to think about. Okay, sales and marketing. We've got sales and marketing number 5, and it doesn't mean it's fifth in importance. It's just, I think, a lot of business owners, when they've got a problem, that they automatically go to a marketing problem, or gee, my sales are down, or this has happened, or that's happened, my profit's down, my cash flow's in trouble, I must have a marketing problem. And look, you may do, I'm not saying you don't, but my experience has been that you need to have a look at those other pillars first. Of course, work all the pillars up at the same time. But I think the sales and marketing, you're going to get most bang for your buck when you've got everything else working really well, or you've at least got a plan in place and you're starting to work on those things in those pillars. So sales and marketing, it can mean different things to different businesses, and we've got a multitude on businesses here. And if you can think of the differences between a business that's selling perhaps raw materials or manufactured goods, or they're a high moving business, so it's a lot of volume. Often in those businesses, perhaps think of a car yard. In the example of a car yard or a supermarket, the sale is effectively the end of the transaction. So the marketing, the effort is a lot around the branding and the customer experience, etc. But the sale is the end of the transaction. Whereas in a business like ours and other sort of services or professional services businesses, the sale is actually the start of the transaction, and there's usually huge costs in acquiring a new client or a new sale in those types of businesses, because it's very difficult for people to change suppliers in that industry, and when they do, they often stick with them for a long time. So I just want to have this perhaps get you thinking of what type of business do you have? Is the sale the start of the transaction like it would be in our business, or is the sale the end of the transaction? And that will need to sort of change your mindset. The next 2 dot points here, marketing and sales, these are my takes. So marketing, in my view, is what communication do you have that's going to create a lead? So communication could mean many different things. It could mean word of mouth, it could mean website, it could mean just good old advertising, however that looks. But what things are you doing in your business to create a lead? That's marketing. And then sales for me is once that lead comes in, once there's a knock on the door, a phone call, an email requesting a quote, an inquiry through your website, what do you then do to convert that into an order or indeed a client? So marketing. So first things first, in my view, you need to understand what your areas of focus are. So all businesses have to have some areas of focus. Most have 1 to 5, but you definitely have areas of focus, and that means you might have a few areas that you really specialize in. And in my view, what are these areas? And most likely you need a mini marketing plan for each one of those areas, because usually those areas are aimed at different clients, different types of clients, or different segments of customers. So you need to have a communication plan. How are you going to let these people know about your service to those particular areas of focus that you have? If you're a generalist business, then that's a lot more difficult because the marketing and communication sits back on your brand. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is have an area of focus where you can specialize in a particular area and have a direct message to that particular segment. So in most cases, your business, if you know it or not, will have 1 to 5 areas of focus. And then I'd be encouraging you to have a think about what you're doing for each area of focus with your marketing and basically the communication to those areas. Marketing continued. So yeah, I've sort of covered that. But your areas of focus cover everything that you're doing in your marketing, etc. It helps dramatically if you're famous for something, and you might be famous for a few things, but what are you absolutely famous for? What are people driving out to your business for? What do they walk past? A whole lot of other businesses that are seemingly the same as yours to come and use you. Why is it that they're coming to use you? What are you famous for? Now, you might find that you're famous for something in each area of focus that you have, and that's fantastic. But the idea of what we're trying to say is that it's really difficult being a generalist, whatever that looks like, and you're far better off to have a specialization, an area of focus, be famous for some things. And that creates ease of transaction. You can deal with that industry really easily, all the customers, and you can start developing IP and templates, and the whole thing becomes smoother and smoother. You make more money, and the customers or the clients that are using you have a far better experience and get far better service. So it's just something to have a think about. So that's the marketing side, and then the sales side. So once you get that hit on your website, or the quote, or the knock on the door, or the phone call, what do you then do? And in my view, sales is all process driven. It's all about process being built. So when one of those things happen, when a request for a quote comes in via email, what do you then do? Now, in most cases, in most businesses, it's common sense approach. If you get a quote in, obviously you quote it. If someone rings up, obviously you follow them up. If they walk through the door, etc. But what we're really looking here to do is systematize it, so perhaps you can get other people in the business to at least run through some of this work. So you might be able to get other people in the business to do a quote, or to make the initial phone call, or to set up an appointment or a time. But yeah, sales is simply just the process. Once that marketing lead comes in, then your sales process kicks in. So that's really what in my view, marketing sales is all about. You've got, what's the communication going to be to your different areas of focus? How are you going to communicate and then engage with those areas of focus that you have? What's your mini marketing plan for each area? And then when you do get leads coming in, what's your sales process to convert those leads into orders or customers or clients or whatever it may be? So bringing all this together, as we've stated, you should have goals and a vision for the business, and that can tie in your goals personally and then your goals for the business. There will be some goals that you can share with the staff and some you can't. And it's usually the profit related goals that you can't share with the staff, or indeed if you want to sell the business or some sort of succession plan. So but in our business, we have our plan on an A3 piece of paper that all the staff can see. So that lists our goals, it lists our vision and what we're trying to achieve. And then we have the 5 pillars with the key projects and outcomes that we want to achieve to support those goals. So everybody knows what our 5 pillars are. We're accountable to an external person with the projects in those 5 pillars. We run projects internally with our team, and then we report back to our team each quarter how we're going with our pillars, the projects in our pillars, and then how we're going against our goals. And it's really important, I think, to be communicating this with your team and have them on board. And it's something where they can actually do a lot of the heavy lifting. As Rob and I have discussed, this should be a working document and monthly, and you should be checking in with this. You need to have some sort of regular check-in and regular piece of accountability with, in my view, someone external. So you can use almost anybody. There's plenty of business coaches out there and people who do this sort of stuff. We are happy to provide our templates and assistance in doing business planning in your business. We'd love to do that. But I think it's something where you need to really have someone external holding you to account and keeping you on track and focused on at least a monthly basis and working through this sort of stuff. And like we said, regular communications with the team, etc. So that's our presentation. We hope you've got something out of it. Is there any questions that you have for Rob and I at this stage? This presentation, will be sending this out via email, so you'll get a copy or a link to the presentation and also the other video. So if you want to watch this over and over, you can, and indeed if you want to share it, you can. But in this time, look, Rob and I, we're more than happy to help. We're happy to share the templates that we have and use, and at least talk to you about the process that you might need to undertake. Okay, so there's no questions. If anyone's got a question, you all know us. Obviously, you've got our email addresses on the screen. Thanks very much, Rob.
Yep, no worries. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone.
And hope everyone stays safe and enjoys the next 6 weeks of, if indeed you're located in Melbourne, of lockdown. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. See you all.